Hello and welcome everybody to another Rise of Kingdoms video. This is Dragothian, and today I've got another installment in my Commander Mastery series guides. And what you see in front of you is Genghis Khan. He is going to be the next installment for you all to enjoy and look at his talent build that I've put together for you. Also his use on the battlefield, we'll talk about that. Also his best pairings, both for PvP and PvE. Before I go forward, please, if you have not done so, or if you're brand new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button just so you can get all these great guides that you're looking on the channel for. Also, tons of war footage from our war in KVK, and just general good tips, tricks, guides, and best practices for the game of Rise of Kingdoms. So let's go ahead and move forward. Genghis Khan, what is he? What does he do? How do you use him? Well, there's a couple of answers to that question, but I think they all lead to the same end, and that is this guy is one of the best cavalry nuking commanders in the game, if not the best. The reason I say that is because of his expertise skill. Second to none. It's a new skill. It makes his primary nuke, which I'll go into in just a second, basically proc twice, has a 30% chance to do that. When it does, it's amazing. You see the damage go off on an enemy, and they immediately drop. They immediately drop in health. That first skill is the chosen one. It has a 1700 damage factor. And again, when you've got a really nice sized army with a full army expansion and all the army buffs, especially in the Lost Kingdom with all the extra buffs that you get, this thing will trigger for a serious amount of damage. Heavens forbid if you're in a rally and you're going up against a target that doesn't have as many troops as you do, man, that target is going to melt because of Genghis. Genghis is the go-to for anything to do with nuking cavalry groups, whether it's open field, whether it's rallying a target, whether it be a garrison or a flag or a pass. This is the guy you want to use. And also this is great for killing forts, when you're talking about barbarian forts, and also great for when you're talking about targeting PvE content bosses. Like if you need to do a rally on a boss, or for instance like a Crusader fort or one of the Kerouac bosses or something like that, this guy can hold his own and put a ton of damage out for you to be able to be successful on that objective. So let's go through the skills really quick. We just went over the chosen one. Absolutely fantastic nuke. No additional perks or anything like that, but you get a lot of perks in the second, third, and fourth skill. So let's move on to those. The second one is Cyclone of the Steppes. This one increases your cavalry march speed by up to 15%, and it also has a march speed reduction when you're attacked. So the way it works is if you're attacking somebody, until that happens, until you're in battle basically, you have a 15% march speed bonus. So catching people will be very nice with Genghis because he's going to usually be faster than most people on the battlefield, especially if you're doing damage. Now, once you catch them and you're engaged in battle and they attack you back, that's when you actually get a march speed reduction of 10% whenever you're fully maxed out on the skill. And that's not too bad, especially considering with the cavalry talent builds that you have and the different types of skills that are out there. Usually there's a march speed reduction of some kind anyway, so not a huge deal. I'll also say you also reduce the rage requirement of all of your skills by 100 points too. That's 10%, guys. That's around 10% rage requirement reduction because of this skill, which is pretty sweet. That means he's going to be chaining those skills even faster. It takes less time for his skill bar to skill up so you can use your nuke and then whatever you're pairing up with him on the secondary. Very nice skill, big time. Nomadic Empire, while the army led by this commander is more than 70%, and I emphasize that for a reason because the next skill is the opposite of this. While you are more than 70% strength and only have cav units in your army, very critical, increases all damage dealt by 30%. That is huge. Not only is that buffing the skill damage, but it's also buffing the troop damage. So you get all damage dealt increased by 30% when you have your full cav army over 70% strength. Very, very nice skill. It's basically a huge damage bonus, and as long as you're 70% higher, you're good to go. Now, again, when I emphasize the other one, this is the counter to that. When an army led by Genghis only contains cav, again, and has been reduced to less than 50% strength, increases skill damage dealt by 30%, and you get an additional rage restoration of 25 when you're attacked. So if you're swarmed, that will start stacking up. It's a passive skill, so it doesn't need to fire off. And again, your skill damage will be innately increased. Now, there's a gap there between 70 and 50% where you don't have either third or fourth skill, which is kind of a bummer. But either you're really full health and you're doing an absolute ton of damage, or you're at half health or less, and you're either going to be very speedy because of a couple talents in the talent build that I've made for you, or you're going to be still doing some really good damage because you still have a 30% nuking damage or skill damage bonus, which is really where the majority of your damage is going to come from with Genghis, and you're gaining more rage, which again, with the rage cost reduction that you get from the second skill and more rage getting restored on the fourth skill, you start machine gunning like crazy all these skills that Genghis can fire off. And again, we just talked about the expertise skill for Genghis. Your first skill can hit twice, which is even better. And again, when you're starting to really crank out those skill damages nonstop, that's when your target just starts to melt and go from green to yellow to red very quickly. So really solid skills. And again, just to reiterate, Genghis really isn't the best cavalry commander until that expertise skill. That expertise skill kind of makes him better than almost any cavalry commander out there, especially offensively, which is really what you should be using your cavalry for, to be speedy offensive weapons on the battlefield, to take out those archer groups with YSG in them, with El Cid in them, with Herman in them, and really just causing havoc on the battlefield. And when you need to target something down quickly, this is your guy to use, okay? So let's go ahead and, now that we've gone over the skills, let's jump into the build. And this build, the reason I went with this build is because we want to maximize, and when I say maximize, I want to maximize the amount of rage I get so that I can fire these nukes off as quickly as possible. Because again, what makes Genghis so good is his expertise, which will allow you to fire that first skill off twice. So I talked about it in the previous section. Charge is something that you want on the cavalry tree on the very top. That's going to give you, when your army is less than 50%, you get another 30% march speed, which is really, really good. And then also you get Emblazoned Shield. So Emblazoned Shield will give you a 12% skill damage reduction for damage taken. So if you're fighting Cav, this is almost a must-have if you're fighting any kind of nuking commander, which you should be. You shouldn't be fighting infantry with this guy, although you can. And again, just spoiler alert, you can beat Richard Charles with a properly spec'd out and properly set up Genghis. So take that for what it is. But you should be attacking skill damage commanders like YSG, El Cid, and Herman for your archers, Mehmed, Julius as well. And then for Cav, you should be going up against Mina Double C. You should be going up against Minamoto and Pelagius or whatever's out there. You should be going up against that stuff because you will be doing more damage. Guaranteed. Genghis will make sure that if you go up against another skill damage group, you should win. You should win. There's no doubt about it. So you get that skill damage taken reduction with Emblazoned Shield of 12%. That's really, really critical. And then if you notice on all of these skill points that I had you select, so the blue dots, it's all meant to generate rage, increase your skill damage, reduce your damage taken, and generate more rage. I mean, it's nothing but every single rage and damage talent that you can possibly get. I also, and you can play around with it if you want, I also took Latent Power, which is the very top blue one beside the 45. That enhances additional skill damage. That doesn't necessarily apply to Genghis, but you should be pairing up Genghis with either Minamoto or double C, okay? You can also use Saladin, and we'll get into that, but if you use Minamoto with Genghis, you want to have latent power because that will enhance Minamoto's secondary damage on his primary nuke. If you're not using him with Minamoto, you don't need those 3 talent points there, at which point you can take him actually and put him in Halberd, which will give you increased damage to archer units. So if you're attacking archers, it'll be a 9% damage increase there, which is really nice. So again, if you're pairing with double C, remove those 3 points from latent power, put them into Halberd in the cavalry tree, and you'll be really good shape. If you have them, if you have Genghis with Minamoto and Genghis is primary, make sure you get latent power because it's critical. It's going to be extra damage that you need and you want. Okay. So again, I took almost the entirety of the skill tree because it gives you so much damage and so much rage regen. The more rage regen you have on this build, the more skill damage you're going to do on Genghis, which means death to your opponents. Clearly, with the amount of skill damage this guy puts out, that's the way to go. I also spec'd over to Undying Fury on the left side of the cav tree for even more rage restoration when you have normal attacks hit. So it's just everywhere that you see there's march speed, rage restoration, skill damage, damage taken reductions, and more percent chances with feral nature on the last skill to give you even more rage to use, while also with the skills of Genghis reducing the rage cost of your skills, and also on the 4th skill getting you even more damage, even more rage for your skills. So this guy is an absolute skill damage beast. You need to spec into him as such. This is the build for you to use. The versatility tree is absolutely garbage for anything that you're doing with this commander, so don't even use it. All right, so this is the build. Go for it. Use it every time. This is if Genghis is primary. If he's secondary, obviously whoever you're using as your primary is what you'll be going for on the talent build. All right, let us switch to his pairings and his summary. So again, on the left, guys, that's going to be your PvP pairings. On your right, it's going to be your PvE pairings. This is not a PvE commander. This guy is a PvP beast. So you need to make sure that you are pairing him with the right commanders. Mina and Double C are my top 2 choices. And again, they are fairly interchangeable. I think Mina just has a slight edge on damage, DPS. And again, you want to have that rapid fire skill damage. And if Genghis's primary skill double hits, if you have that 30% chance with the expertise, and then Minamoto nukes, and then his additional damage ticks, that is a serious amount of skill damage. It's something that will take somebody from green to yellow in 1 skill round. It's that potent. You need to have that when you're using this guy because he is a glass cannon, guys. There is no doubt about it. There is 0 defense on this guy. He wants damage. He wants to put it out, and he wants to drop anybody in front of him, so that is what he's used for. Mina Double C is the way to go for doing that. Double C is nice, though, because he does give you a little bit of healing, which is really nice. And again, his rage stuff works really well with Genghis as well, but I like just the raw damage output that you see with Genghis and Minamoto, so that's my primary. Double C is secondary. Saladin does give you some defensive capabilities with his 3rd skill, reducing the skill damage you take by 30%. And again, what did I say at the very beginning, right? This guy should be going up against archers and cav, both of which are massive skill damage nuker commander type armies. So Saladin is a really good choice in the sense that you're going to be reducing a lot of your damage coming in. And Saladin does have a decent nuke putting out damage on the 1st skill that he has. But again, the raw damage output, you're not getting as much from Saladin as you do from Minamoto and Double C. However, you may stay on the battlefield a little longer using Saladin, so that's really nice. Pelagius is just the epic version of either of those 3, really. You get a bunch of heal, you get a bunch of damage, there's some rage stuff in there, there's cav bonuses in there, there's nothing wrong with Pelagius at all. If you don't have any of the other 3 legendaries leveled up and maxed out, Pelagius is a very, very good substitute and will work really well with Genghis as well. Babers is another one, tons of cav bonuses, really good AoE nuke, lots of mobility as well from Babars, so that's a good pairing too. Again, epic version, so not going to be best of the best, but still really good pairing. Now, those are the cav versions of pairings that I wanted to put up there, and that's what's on the paper. I wanted to also mention 2 other commanders before I move to the PvE side, which is really quick because this guy's not really a PvE commander. This guy's PvP all the way. I wanted to mention 2 other commanders that complement increasing the skill damage of Genghis Khan. YSG. And I know he's an archer commander, guys, don't get me wrong. But Genghis primary with YSG secondary, full cav. There's a lot to like there. You've got full cav, so mobility's nice. You've got a skill damage boost from YSG on his 4th skill. You've got a rage restoration bonus on the 2nd skill. You lose the 100% attack damage from the archers on his 2nd skill, but the rage regen skill is not troop specific. So you can use that with full cav and get away with it and really start cranking. I mean, you may start doing skills before they're ready. That's how quickly you can start doing some of these skills. And if they both double proc, I salivate just getting it in my mind, because that could be a very potent and kind of OP pairing on the battlefield. I've got my Genghis at 5-4-5-4, and I've got YSG maxed. I will be testing that out, and I will show that to you guys once I get it up and running, because it is sweet. On paper, really looking forward to seeing how it does on the battlefield. The other pairing, basically the epic version of that, would be with Sun Tzu. Again, a lot of his stuff relates to boosting skill damage and giving some defense. So this makes up for a little bit of the gap that Genghis has when it comes to rounding out his character. He does not have any defense. And Sun Tzu, with his 10% damage reduction, damage taken reduction, helps. So that will give him a little bit more tankiness, which is nice. But then he also has a skill damage boost as well. So that pairing, again, will work really well. And Sun Tzu is also AoE, so just more damage output, things like that. And you do get, the more targets you hit, you do get more rage with Sun Tzu as well. So more rage restoration. I think both of those are also really good pairings that are not on this paper because they're not cav commanders, but I think would really be good pairings when it comes to the Ark of Osiris, and also when it comes to just open field fighting, because you are never, hardly ever, unless you're farm killing, 1 versus 1. It's always 1 versus 5, or 3 versus 8, or 4 versus 4. It's always multiple. There's never just 1 versus 1. It just doesn't happen. People have 5 armies, guys. They're going to use them. Okay? Let's go over to PvE. Again, I think PvE, he's not really made for this, guys. He's not a PvE commander. You can certainly use him as such. You're going to be wasting his talents. There's better PvE commanders out there, like YSG, like Sun Tzu, like Richard, like Lohar. All the peacekeepers are really, really good to use from an AP perspective. And then the loots that you get from the barbarians that you're killing are really, really good. But he is really good for forts, guys. So if you do Mina Genghis or Genghis Mina, that will work really well. Also with Double C, same thing. He's a peacekeeping barbarian. You can use him in the same way and pair those two up and work really well. AoE commander, just because when you're farming barbs, AoE is always good. So that pairing I told you over on the left side with Baybars will work really well. So that will work really well on the PvE side too, guys. So go ahead and use that at your leisure. Lohar and Boudica, because again, peacekeepers, and why not? Again, PvE is a secondary to PvP being the primary for Genghis. Let's talk about the summary, and again, let's recap the purpose of Genghis on the battlefield, and then we'll wrap this thing up, okay? So first off, again, just to reiterate, he is the best skill damage cavalry commander in the game when he's expertise. There should be a star there, just so you know. The caveat is he must be maxed, guys. If he's not maxed, he is just as good as Mina and Double C, but he's not the best. Once he's expertised, he's the best. Hands down. There's no other commander in the game that can double nuke, okay? And this is heavy nuke damage. This is not an 800 nuke or a 700 nuke. This is a 1700 nuke twice. And it procs a lot. It does proc a lot. Secondly, again, everybody's been asking for ways to take down Charles and Richard. You can take down Charles and Richard with Genghis, guys. Any of the top 3 commanders there, you can use and pair up with Genghis, and you can take down Richard Charles. It can be done, especially if they don't have my Richard build that I've got on my previous video in the Mastery Series guide. If they've got that, it depends on the circumstances as far as buffs, who's got what territory they're on, things like that. Those do come into account, but with the proper commander setup, which is what you have now in front of you, and a proper pairing, which you also have in front of you, you should be able to take down a Richard Charles without any problem. You'll probably be really low on health at the end of it, but you can do it, okay? Makes a really good rally commander. Again, this guy can rally forts, barbarian forts. They can rally crusader forts. They can rally, he can rally passes, flags, cities, anything. This guy is the best at cav rallies, okay? So use him in all of your cavalry rallies, again, if he's expertised, because the skill damage this guy puts out when he's got 2.4 or 2.6 million troops is insane. Insane. And if you can keep that rally up by reinforcing cav, this guy just blows through whatever is in front of him. Again, I did want to put a little X here because he has to be expertise to be the best. That means you need to put 690 sculptures into this guy. He takes a lot. You can only get these sculptures off of the Wheel of Fortune event, which costs money. So you need to be putting some money into the game to get this guy maxed out. Also putting some universal sculptures into him along the way to get him maxed out quicker. But this guy is a beast. And like I said, I've got him maxed out or almost maxed out at 5-4-5-4. That means I've got 2 more skills to get, and I'm already on my way to getting that next skill unlocked here in the next few weeks. So I should have this guy ready to rock and roll very soon for y'all and do some testing on different things. But I've already seen some really sweet reports that show him killing Richard Charles and also blowing through a Minnow Double C. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think I broke down everything that I possibly could. Again, he needs to be on the battlefield killing nuke armies, okay? This guy is meant to take out damage dealers. So if you've got somebody rolling in, even with T5, right? They come in with their infantry in the front, and then they've got their cav coming around the sides, and then they got their archer with YSG maxed out coming in behind. You want to go straight for that YSG, then bounce between the 2 cav commanders, take out as much as you can before this guy goes down. He will go down in that situation because he does not take kindly to swarms, guys. He can't run away, and he has no defense. But he will put out a crap ton of damage while he is up, and that's what he's made for. He's meant to go in, basically be a little mini nuke, blow up whatever he hits, and then hopefully he can get some other targets while he's alive, but eventually he's going to go down. Use him that way. You will not be disappointed, and you will start seeing some significant difference on the battlefield with what you have to fight versus what you've been fighting in the past. Again, hope you enjoyed all this tips and tricks and all this good stuff. Please let me know if you liked this video below. Again, please subscribe if you have not already. More coming on the way this week, guys. I'm going to do a ton of videos and just have them line up almost every day. I'm going to catch back up with you guys since things are starting to wind down in KVK. So enjoy. Let me know what you think. Hope you'll have a good evening, and I will see y'all next time. Cheers. Take care.